This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
Are y'all ready to thrive? I think we are. We're with Thrive Frameworks once again here. We're going to talk more about this holistic wellness studio that really integrates so much from meditation, healing, somatic healing, I should say specifically, yoga, and Reiki, sound therapy, and so much more. Welcome back to the show today, Cynthia. How are you?
Thank you, Jill. It's great to be here. I'm wonderful. I'm, dealing with this heat that we have on the East Coast right now and getting ready for the holiday weekend coming up. I'm thriving to be to be quite honest.
Wonderful. Great to hear that. So please, we'll start off by having you introduce yourself to our listeners today and viewers. I'm sure there's new ones since last time we spoke.
Yeah, I just want to start out by saying hi to everyone. I'm so honored that you're spending this time with me and Jill, and we get to impart some wisdom on you and take the meat and leave the bones, right? If something doesn't resonate with you, it's all good, right? But my name is Cynthia Pyle Manley. I've been working in wellness for 20 years. I know it may not look that way because of my youthful appearance, but I started my wellness journey quite early. And then I became a federal mediator and HR professional, which I had also been doing for about 15 years. My background specifically is in conflict resolution. And I found this really beautiful through line with wellness and
Yeah.
self-regulation and getting into the body and understanding the language of the body and how it relates to our behaviors in the workplace. So that's why I named my company Thrive Frameworks, right? Because it really is about not how do we escape our lives, but how do we create frameworks and systems that allow us to rise to challenging times
Yeah.
and work with other people, other individuals, organizations, systems, like what have you, whatever you're being faced with.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll be something that you can just pick up one of the tools, you'll maybe you find something on my website or on my Instagram that really resonates with you and that you
Yeah.
can just easily access.
Yeah. Well,
That'll help
last
you
time
create.
we thrived and we talked more about the coaching, the leadership development you do, the chair yoga, mindfulness, sound healing, Reiki, somatic practices, and so much more. So for today, again, these are many wellness offerings that you have and modalities, but listeners may be wondering, how did you get from leadership development, shall I say, and conflict resolution into sound healing, Reiki, and somatic work? Can we take a little bit closer look in depth into your journey here, into your career?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love this question because I really do all of the tools that I've developed, I practice on myself. So I am my own first test subject, if you will. And I actually did a modality, if you will, that right before our call today that I'd love to share with listeners, right? I'm very like, let's practice, let's get right into it. And so the first thing is with leadership specifically is self-trust,
Okay.
right? If you don't trust yourself, how can you expect your team, your community, your children, anyone that you're leading, anyone that you're guiding somewhere? Like, how can they trust you if there's a sense or premonition that maybe you don't fully trust yourself? And so I wanted to kind of scale it back to just like the bare bones, like the first entry point to self-trust. And
Okay.
that's really listening to yourself and understanding your own dialogue and your own the language of the body, because cognitively you have a script, you have things
Yep.
that you say to yourself on a regular basis. You may not even be thinking about it, but
True.
then there's also this language of the body, right? That you start noticing, oh, my speech is a little bit broken up, or my shoulders are tense, or my hands are shaking, or I feel flush, or I have a rumble in my stomach and maybe I need to eat something. That's going to be actually be a future episode. I have a wellness dietitian who is going to come and talk with us about energy and how to fuel the body and fuel the brain to perform better. But the side note, to future to come, we'll have a dietitian expert to talk about that. But really, it's just listening, and we don't listen enough. Like just taking a breath and slowing down and just taking a full breath in, growing tall through the crown of the head, lengthening the spine, opening the lungs, and taking a full deep breath in all the way down into the belly.
Mm-hmm.
To help deepen the connection between the internal dialogue. I think we touched on this last time,
Mm-hmm.
is somatic practices. So I also have this glass of water here. And this is great if you're in the boardroom, right? So just holding, I prefer cold glass of water because that cold signals to the brain something. And so I'll just hold it and notice the weight of the cup in my hand,
Mm-hmm.
noticing the condensation, the coolness, right? Even before I take my first sip,
Mm-hmm.
even before the first sip, I'm starting to become mindful of the signals of the body and synthesizing it with the brain, right? It's data,
Yeah.
it's data, right? And it helps you feel grounded. Then maybe we take a sip.
I
And
hope you don't
again,
mind. I'm
notice.
doing this along with you because,
No, I hope the
ooh, I have a
listeners, if
cold
they're
drink
able,
here. Yeah, if you do too, please. Yeah,
if
cold
they're
water for me.
able, come along with us on this journey. And so now you start to notice, oh, like I don't have to be, it's just what I like to call it is micro regulation for macro stabilization. So it's these micro moments that aren't going to solve the whole puzzle, but they just give you a moment of pause to access your highest level of thinking, to access that prefrontal cortex,
Yeah.
to that's where all the language, curiosity, learning, all possibility is located in the executive functioning of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, and everything related to fear, um, loss, grief is located in the reptilian part of the brain. So we're constantly using these modalities to help us vacillate, right? And the reptilian part of the body is not our enemy.
Mm.
It's actually designed to help us protect and perform. So I really don't want, I really like this framework of we're vacillating between the fight or flight response, the reptilian piece, and the executive functioning, because they are both very important to the holistic aspect of the person in being able to both thrive and protect themselves. It's not an enemy.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. All right. Well, wow. More on capacity. If you want to add some more there. I don't know if we're jumping the gun here. I just want to make sure we're
No,
going through everything. But hold on. Okay, you
no,
did.
no, you're quite
Um,
right.
Okay, okay, good. I'm gonna make sure because I'm like, wait a sec, because now capacity you're saying is the mental, emotional, physical, the resources basically that yeah, these demands that are placed on us. So when we refer to this now, in a sense, in like the conversation with people thriving and how that helps and affects us, what would you say, capacity does? I mean, and then we're gonna go into some of the trust framework next too.
Yeah. So, the somatics help us to create that space, and that's where
Got
the
it.
capacity is built.
Got it.
So the micro pauses allow us to get a bird's eye view.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not, for a moment, like the glass is cold. It's wet. There's no judgment there. We're not talking about, is this bad? Is this good? Is it right? We're just being really present and neutral, almost like an anthropologist would be, sort of just
Okay.
really activating that curiosity. And that's where, in this micro way, we're practicing capacity building.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. All right, I'm getting it because you mentioned though, like there's stress, uncertainty, pressure, competing priorities. There's so much, and you mentioned more.
Economic uncertainty,
Mm-hmm.
political polarization, information overload. There's just so much that data that the brain is trying to synthesize through and determine what's most important to prioritize and to protect, right?
Oh yeah.
But that word protect can also mean it can sort of have a unintended consequence in that it can create defensiveness, it can create distrust, it can create distrust with yourself, right? And then it can also create distrust with your partner, your team, whoever you're engaging with, because the information, again, that data that they're feeding you may not quite be landing the way that it was intended to. And your first instinct is to protect, right? So that's
Yeah.
why the somatics is so important, and building in these micro pauses, because it gives you capacity to be curious and ask open-ended questions instead of sort of labeling or determining what this other person's intention is, good or bad.
Gotcha. And I know we kind of dove into self-trust already a little early, but you mentioned though, because with this whole cognitive shift, right, the change happens. We're gaining more access to ourselves, you said, right? So could you share
Mhm.
how we're doing this whole like survival type thing in our brain? And it's like, okay, is this good? Is this bad? And we're starting to think about this and become more aware of these shifts, as you say.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that self-trust or trust that's lost in your team, that capacity to be open and curious isn't lost in one fell swoop. It's something that's usually eroded over time through, as you said, competing demands, stress, uncertainty, pressure, and that is unfortunately not a it's not durable. It's not a sustainable way of being. It creates cortisol spikes,
Mm-hmm.
hormonal changes, um, adrenaline. All of these things can actually have pretty negative effects on the body over time.
Oh,
And
wow.
we're learning that now more through science. The more science there is around heart disease, which women are the main people who are impacted by heart disease.
Yeah.
We also see it now with this generation that is starting to age, and with
Yep.
cognitive decline and dementia and things like that. And so I wonder if there had been a framework, and this is really my life's work because my father suffered from Alzheimer's disease,
Yeah.
and I was his primary caregiver. So a lot of this isn't, the neuroscience behind it is informed by my own personal journey with experiencing the impact of over being overstressed. He had a very high demand job. He graduated from Yale. He worked at the World Bank. I mean, you name he did a lot of really remarkable things, but there's a cost. there's a
Yeah.
cost.
Yeah. Wow. Well, moving on to, self-trust, as you say, do you want to dive into the mid-level manager challenge in a sense?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so this is like what it looks like in practice, right? There
Yeah, I was
is
going to say, where do you see it showing up the most, right? And most
Yeah,
often?
with my clients and in my experience in the workplace, it shows up the most with mid-level managers, although I also want to, sort of emphasize that we're all leaders
Yep.
in one way, shape, or form. It doesn't matter if you're a CEO, you are the CEO of your life,
Yeah.
right? You are managing multiple things at one time, making decision points. There can be fear around those decision points, and making that cognitive shift from danger to possibility is not just for CEOs, because that framework exists for everyone at multiple levels of the organization. And that's why we call it self leadership. And so, but specifically for the mid-level managers, what I've noticed, particularly with my HR background, is that there's this pressure to execute. And oftentimes, if we just look at the manager's scorecard, right, and we just look at the data and the performance metrics, they are given a specific timeline, there are specific milestones, and either they exceeded or met or failed to meet those expectations. And if we don't look at the context behind it, this
Yeah.
person can have exceptional character. So much of this is built from Stephen Covey's book, The Speed of Trust,
Okay.
which has been an important part of my toolkit. And so, and I encourage your listeners, if they had, so it was actually written by Stephen Covey's son, Stephen Covey Jr. And Stephen Covey's well known for his book on the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, amazing book. His son then later on went to write The Speed of Trust, which is an excellent complement to the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. But so in Covey's work, he talks about 2 aspects of trust that are foundational and core aspects: character and capacity. I'm sorry,
Okay.
character and competence. Competence is a word we use in HR quite a bit, right? There are key skills and competencies, or key skills and abilities. These are what HR professionals and CEOs and people in leadership are measuring. And they're measuring these mid level managers, really all employees, based on these competencies that they've
Mm-hmm.
had written out, right?
Yeah.
And what Covey suggests is that you can have someone who has amazing character and you see it in the interview,
Yeah.
and you can feel that they have the values that are aligned with the organization, but they may not have the capacity,
Sure.
or I'm sorry, they may not have the competency,
Yep.
right?
Mm.
And so as an HR professional, we are trying to match up the character with the competency. So character is something that you may not necessarily be able to measure, but competency, we can measure it based on their performance. It's
Yep.
observable.
Yeah.
But what I think is the missing ingredient, if you will, is capacity. So
Yeah.
capacity is the missing ingredient, because why? I've worked in HR for such a long time that I began to wrestle with this question of, we've got really great character people and they have the competencies. I've trained them. I've sat in the room and trained them. They understand the ask. They understand the ask and they understand the why. And they may even be bought into the why. But where's the gap?
Well,
Where's the gap?
I know what corporations can help, right? You mentioned like there could be some appreciation events. There's sometimes it's like team building. How can we fix this problem in a sense, right? And make the organization actually, a better place, would you say?
So that's where the capacity is built. So maybe it's an offsite or a leadership retreat.
Team building. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Team building, yes. And often it looks like there's a big change in the organization and people are struggling again from this is why it's really important for the mid-level managers to be have that trust with executive leadership to be able to communicate, hey, the schematics look great, the restructure is clear. People understand where they sit in the organization, but there's still something unresolved as it relates to impact or the implementation of this thing. So let's step away for a second. Let's go to a cabin, for smaller organizations, maybe that's just booking an Airbnb. For larger organizations, there's more involved with, finding an offsite and going away for a bit. I've even had small nonprofits use my studio as their offsite space, which is fun. And then I'll come in and teach a yoga class, a chair yoga class. So again, you don't have to have a yoga mat to do yoga. People confuse the poses, which in yoga we call asana. They confuse the
Mm-hmm.
asana with a physical part with yoga, but yoga is much more. It's meditation, it's breath work, it's self-awareness, sensory awareness. It's all of these things kind of combined. So we'll do some somatic practices. We'll do chair yoga. We'll have a sound healing session, and employees feel appreciated, right? They feel seen, but that's often not the end of the work. That's usually the beginning of the work, because one of the things that we talked about in our last session was that practice makes permanence. Practice doesn't make perfect. It creates ingrained new neural pathways that
Mm-hmm.
allow for that self-agency, that
Yep.
choice to become
Shift.
easier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's that shift. And the more that you do it, just like a weight, like you wouldn't read a book or take a class one time on how to lift weights and expect to gain muscle, right? You actually have to go to the gym and lift the weight and develop that capacity and feel the resistance from the
Slowly
weight.
but surely. And it does take some time to build
Oh,
up.
it
Same
takes time.
situation. Yeah.
It takes time. And I think sometimes people and organizations get
Uh-huh.
impatient because they don't see the results immediately that they're hoping to see. But really, behind the scenes, those new neural pathways,
Yep.
those new muscles are being developed.
And that's when all of a sudden we see this empowering shift happening, right? And you said
Yeah.
when we're operating survival mode, it feels like it's happening to us. But when we regain this capacity, then we're responding, you say, from ourselves instead of reacting to everything around us. So, how do you really help people make this shift, Cynthia?
Oh, that's a really beautiful question because oftentimes people are reacting to the environment that
Yep.
they're being presented with. But what
Mm-hmm.
they really want to do and what we really want to encourage and create capacity for is for them to be able to make choices that are aligned with their values. And so this is another service that I've offered groups is to create core values, to create declaration statements for the organization. I mean, this is so pivotal. The nuts and bolts of change have already been laid out. We understand the budget, we understand the why, we understand the ask, but
Yep.
understanding the context with underneath it and how employees want to be seen in terms of their values and where they want to act from in terms of
Yep.
their values. And if you spend some time and really sit down and talk about these things, they're not incongruent. Right? They're
Mm-hmm.
not incongruent. There may be shared interests between
Absolutely.
upper level and the employees who are actually implementing. But we just need to take some time and step back and be curious, right? And get into that prefrontal cortex and really ask those open-ended questions and think about what's possible and take that bird's eye view perspective.
Got it. Well, as you say, then awareness
Choice.
really alone isn't enough, right?
Right. It's not awareness is just the first point.
Part of it,
And
yeah.
then it's really awareness. And then we move into just being able to align
Yeah.
yourself again, like I said, with the values. Where do I want to be acting from, as opposed to how am I reacting? What's my response to this instead of my reaction? And then you can actually take actions that are aligned with your values. And then, that's data as well. It's not the end point. We can iterate after that. We can test this. So, test these new behaviors, test these new actions with our team, with our partners, with our community. And that's data too. So then we can kind of go back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
It's not a one and done. Organizations are living, breathing things. It's almost like
So true.
biology. It's a social system that has to evolve over time. It's not static. So then we're able to, have more awareness, create alignment with our values, take aligned action, and then adjust or pivot where needed.
Yeah, well, it's time to kind of close and reflect. We're almost out of time. Oh my gosh, it happens so quick all the time. So if you
Yeah,
don't mind, yeah, let's just do a little overview recap for today, and then we're gonna obviously find out how we can reach out to you to start working with you.
yeah. So, I sort of where I see the journey of this episode is that, leaders often know
Oh
what to
yeah,
do. They know what to do. And it isn't always the problem. It's about building capacity. So their capacity, because of stress, decision fatigue, caregiving, organizational change, activates that fight or flight response. But micro regulation, somatic practices, breath work, meditation, healing, Reiki can help create that micro pause between reaction and response, allow you to access that executive functioning that's so important for curiosity and shared understanding and shared perspective taking. And where that awareness is developed, then you can see what's possible. You can create more agency for yourself and for people around you. And you can actually see the full landscape
yeah,
of the challenges that you're being called to meet.
yeah.
And all I know I just said a mouthful, right?
Oh my
but
God.
there but there are resources on my website. This framework that I have coined is actually downloadable if you go to thriveframeworks.com. And I also invite listeners to follow me on Instagram at Thrive Frameworks. And I hope that what's been shared today can help people flourish under pressure. It really is possible if we just are intentional about restoring the capacity,
Yeah.
reconnecting to self and our values.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you here again. And I know you have some upcoming workshops we want to promote. So go to Facebook, Instagram at Thrive Frameworks, right, to find you there. We'll talk more about that. And again, your website, one more time, tell us.
It's thriveframeworks.com.
Great. And also, you can download, right? Everything that we talked about today. You can book the session, private session, group session right there through the site itself. That's thriveframeworks.com.
Yes.
Oh,
Thank you so
thank
much,
you so
Jill.
much. Pleasure
It's been a
having you
pleasure.
here. Same here. Great job as always. And looking forward, I guess, till next week. Till we meet again, shall I say?
Yes.
All
Same.
right. Thank you so much, Cynthia. Enjoy the rest of your day in beautiful Maryland. It's hot everywhere around the country, isn't it?
Sure is.
All
We'll
right.
talk soon.
Stay cool. Bye.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.